Is it worth making the Rivalate Katana? I've gotten asked this question all the time, mainly because of the accelerated timeline that we have on the global servers. So on the JP servers, it made sense to make the Rivalate Katana, mainly because the release schedule was a lot slower than the global server. However, since we're playing on the global server and everything is super duper accelerated, is it actually worth making the Rivalate Katana or not? Well, in today's video, we're going to be talking about that, as well as alternatives to other weapons which you may want to save up for in the future. But first of all, if you're new to the channel, I upload PSO2 content daily, so if you do play this game, I would really appreciate a subscribe, as it really helps out the channel. Anyway, without further ado, let's begin the video. So the very first thing I want to talk about is how many more weapons are we still getting before the end of episode 6. So our ultimate end-all be-all endgame weapon is going to be the Lightweaver Cras weapon over here. And the reason for that is because A, it's got the highest attack damage, and B, it supports all the S abilities, so S1 all the way to S5, and it's got an insanely strong potential over here. So this is going to be our end-all be-all weapon that we want to make at the very end of episode 6. However, before we get this weapon, there will be several weapons released first. So at the moment, the Liberate weapon is available, also known as the Rivalate weapons on the global servers. Then we'll get the Stil series over here, which is spelled S-T-I-L, by the way, and this is extremely strong but also extremely expensive to make. So what does this do? The potential for the Stil series weapon over here is power bonus decreases when taking damage and recovers over time. When power bonus is 16%, gains 40% damage resistance, increase natural PP recovery by 60%, regenerate 20 PP every 10 seconds, and become massive. I have no idea what become massive does. All I know is the Stil series weapon is extremely strong if you don't get hit. So if you're just really good at the game, or if you play a range class, the Stil series is something that you can look at. It's very, very powerful. It supports S1, S2, S3, and S5. The only two downsides for this weapon is 1, you're not allowed to get hit or else you lose a lot of damage, and 2, in order to make this weapon, it is extremely expensive. Now we'll talk about all the costs after we cover all the weapons. The next weapon I want to talk about is the Ayer weapon. Now I recommend most people to make the Ayer weapon when this comes out. The reason for that is because the Dark Banisher Ayer is going to be used to make the Lightweaver Cras. So you're going to need this weapon in order to make your ultimate endgame weapon, right? Now the potential of this weapon is Reincarnation of Fate, which basically gives you a damage boost of 12%, reduces PP consumption by 20%, and recovers 20 PP every 10 seconds. So it's not as amazing as the Stil weapon. The Stil weapon gives you, a ton of damage on top of all of that, as well as damage resistance. However, if you make this weapon, you are future-proofing yourself, since you're going to be using the Ayer weapon in order to make the ultimate endgame weapon. Now these two weapons over here, I don't know what they are, and I've never seen them before, so if anyone can tell me in the comment section below, let me know if they're actually good or not, because I don't know what these two weapons are. Okay? Alright, so these are the materials required to make the Stil series weapons. You're going to need the Luminmech crystals, so these are not the fragments. The fragments that we get from the mission pass are these over here, right? These Luminmech crystals are actually time gated, which we're going to be able to get through limited ARX missions, Divide Metal Shop, Divide Quest, Armada Metal Shop, as well as the Cosmic Calamity on Extremely Hard and above. This is a limited quest, so I don't know when this will be released or if it'll be released at all on the global server, but these are the only ways to get the Luminmech crystals. So basically, we can't get this at the moment. Okay, next up is the Luminmech fragment, so we can get 300 of these from the mission pass. And then we've got these 3 materials over here, which will only drop from Divide Quest, Primordial Glare, which is the last boss, I believe. We've got Morning of Demise, which is another urgent quest. Then we've got Merry Christmas on Ice. However, this is the 2020 edition, so this is not the one that we did on the global server. This is the one that came out on the JP server, so it's a little bit different. So basically, we're gonna have to wait for any of these 3 to come out before we can start collecting these modules. So in order to make any of the Stil weapons, we're gonna need the Puras weapons first at plus 35. You're gonna need one of these, and then you're gonna need 500 Luminmech fragments. So we get 300 from the mission pass, so we're going to need to farm an additional 200. And on top of that, we're going to need 6 of these crystals, and then 25 of this module, 25 of the other module, and 50 of these modules, alright? And that is to make the Stil weapon. I personally am going to be skipping the Stil weapon, mainly because it costs way too much of these fragments, and the Luminmech crystals, and just everything just is way too expensive for me, right? I don't play the game enough to get all of these materials, or maybe they'll give it for free, but I want to save all of these materials mainly because I'm going to be using them on my Ayer weapon, mainly because the Ayer weapon is more future proof and it becomes like the ultimate endgame weapon, and that is my train of thought. However, if you're a really skilled player, or if you're a ranged player that doesn't get hit very often, the Stil weapon is extremely strong. So it really depends on you. If you play a lot and can farm up all these materials, then by all means, making a Stil weapon is always a good investment. However, in my case, since 1, I'm not good at the game, 2, I get hit all the time since I'm a melee character, so I can't benefit as much from the potential, and 3, I don't play the game enough to justify this heavy investment. So if you're like me, then I recommend skipping the Stil series and jumping straight to Ayer. Alright, next up is your Ayer series weapons over here. So we're going to need Plamia, Plamdest, or Plamgrimo depending on what you play. So if you're a melee class, you need Plamia. If you're ranged, then you need Plamdest. If you're tech, then you need the Plamgrimo. And then everyone's going to need the Emeralds. And then over here is the Primordial Darkstone Demios. You're going to need a ton of these as well. But don't worry, there are quite a few ways to get them. When you do the Primordial Glare of the Void, when you do this on Ultra Hard, there are title rewards at 1 time, 10 times, 30 times, and 40 times. You get a bunch of them there. Then there's also Ultimate Quest, the Space-Time Rift. And there's also a limited time quest which was available in JP. Hopefully we get this in global as well, where you beat the Cosmic Calamity on extremely hard or above, and you'll also be able to get a bunch of these. Now we're also going to need Lumimic fragments and ultimate boosters. So in order to make the weapon, don't worry, it's not that bad. You're going to need 100 Plamia, you're going to need 50 Emeralds, you're going to need 20 of the Primordial Darkstones, you're going to need 200 X cubes, 200 Lumimic fragments, as well as 30 ultimate boosters. So first of all, the ultimate boosters. If you do not make your Rivalate weapon, the ultimate boosters will not be a problem, because the Rivalate weapon requires 50 ultimate boosters. So if you just wait and just save up your ultimate boosters and don't use them, or if you just play a lot, then this should not be that big of a deal. Now, as for the Lumimic fragments, we get 300 from the mission pass, so you can just save all 300 and use them later down the line. 200 X cubes shouldn't be too difficult, just do a bunch of urgent quests or do a bunch of triggers. The Primordial Darkstones, you need 20 of these. This will take a little bit of time because we currently don't have any way to farm for these, so we're just gonna have to wait for that urgent quest to come out. Then we've got the 100 Plamia as well as the 50 Emeralds. You can start farming for these by breaking down materials already. So what I'm personally planning to do is I will skip the Rivalate weapons, I will skip the Stil series weapons, and I will jump straight to the Ayer weapon. So right now, the only thing I'm doing is I'm making sure that I have all these materials ready. So there are certain materials, again, that you can't farm for, like the Primordial Darkstone, so you can't get this yet. But I'm just making sure that I have everything else ready, so when this weapon does come out, I can make it immediately. And now for our ultimate end-all be-all weapon, the Cras series. So this is going to be the end-all be-all ultimate weapon that we're all striving to make. So naturally, it's going to be very expensive, so buckle up. So first of all, we're going to need Diards. Easy enough, just break down 15-star weapons. We're going to need a ton of Primordial Darkstones, so get ready to farm a ton of the Primordial Glare, so that is like the ultimate last boss of this game. Then we're going to need Divine Eye Stones. I have no idea what this is, but it says here, Final Battle, the Space-Time Rift, as well as Mission Pass Season 4. So maybe we're also going to get this from the Mission Pass, which would be very nice. We're going to need the Lumimic Crystals. So these are not the fragments, these are the crystals, just like the Stil series, which is going to be very pain in the butt to get. But as you can see here, limited Arcs missions, Divide Metal Shop, Divide Quest, Armada Metal Shop, as well as the Cosmetic Calamity, which is a limited time quest. Then we're going to need a bunch of Class X cubes, and we're going to need 4 different modules. So these modules are also quite the pain in the butt to get. So keep in mind the Cras series have units and weapons. So we're going to look at the weapons first. So we're going to need the Ayer weapon. So that's the one that we just made. Then we're going to need 50 Diards. So break down 50 15-star weapons. You're going to need 150 of these Primordial Darkstone. This is going to kick you in the balls really hard. But it's okay. We'll get it eventually. So this is probably going to be the main thing that's time gating us. We're probably going to get the Divine Eye Stone through the mission pass. And then we're going to need 4 Lumimec crystals. So the crystals, again, this is also time gated, I believe. I think you can get like 6 a month is what I've heard, but luckily we only need 4 over here. And then we're going to need 200 class X cubes. So from what I see over here, I think this is the one that's going to take the longest to get. It's going to be the primordial dark stones 150 in order to make our Cras weapon. So that covers the weapon. Now for the units. So if you want to make the units, for each piece, you're going to need another 50 primordial dark stones, as well as all of these different modules. So it's going to cost a lot of these primordial dark stones to make everything, because each unit costs 50, so that's 150 right there. Then the weapon itself will cost another 150. So we're looking at farming 300 primordial dark stones just to make the Cras units as well as the Cras weapon. And don't forget, we needed 20 primordial dark stones in order to make our Ayer weapon. So that is a total of 320 primordial dark stones that we're gonna need to farm for. So what do I think about all of this, and what is my game plan? Well, it's going to be a lot of farming, all right? In order to get your Cras weapon, you're going to have to farm a lot. It's going to feel exactly the same as when we were trying to make our Trailblazers. Remember when we had to make our Trailblazer units in order to get the Void Fragments? We were basically farming Persona like non-stop on autopilot. We're probably going to be doing the exact same thing, but with Primordial Darkness. However, I don't know if Primordial Darkness is going to get a trigger on the global server or not. Now, if we do get a trigger, then it's not that bad, because we're just going to spam the crap out of that on autopilot until we get all 320. However, we do not know when the Ayer weapon is coming out yet. However, what we can do is we can predict when it'll come out. So we can see that season 12 of this mission pass will end on February 3rd. So what I'm going to assume is the Ayer weapon is going to come out soon after this mission pass ends, because we're going to have the 300 lumen fragments, and so we can use it to make the Ayer weapon. However, the Ayer weapon just by itself is alright. There's nothing really special about the Ayer weapon. The main reason why you make the Ayer weapon is because you want to future-proof yourself and you want to upgrade the Ayer weapon into your Big Daddy Cras weapon. So when does the Cras weapon come out? It's probably gonna come out on season 14 of the mission pass, mainly because we've got the Stil series first. So I'm assuming that season 13 of the mission pass is going to release the Stil series, and somewhere in between the Stil series release, soon after we'll get the Ayer weapon. So that is what I'm predicting. So that is still quite some time before we get our super duper OP Cras weapons. So if we're going to have to wait until season 14 to get our Cras weapons, then we're looking at least 2 months of downtime before we get our ultimate endgame weapon. So what I'm personally going to do is I will be using my lumen fragments over here and increasing the potential for my Trailblazer weapon. So you can see right now that my Trailblazer weapon is using Photon Resurrection level 3, which is increases my potency by 10%, blah 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 blah, right? So what I'll be doing is I'll be spending the 240 lumen fragments to change my potential to the Photon Resurrection Redux level 3, which will increase my potency by 17% instead of 10%. So 7% more DPS increase. And the reason for that is because I'm planning to stick with my Trailblazer weapon until the Ayer weapon comes out. And when the Ayer weapon comes out, I'll craft the Ayer weapon, but I might still use the Trailblazer weapon, depending on what gives me more damage. If the Ayer weapon gives me more damage, then I'll use the Ayer weapon and I'll keep the Trailblazer as a PP battery. If the Trailblazer does more damage, then I'll just stick with the Trailblazer weapon and keep the Ayer weapon in my storage until the Cras weapon comes out. And that is basically my game plan. So I'm going to be skipping the Rivalate weapon, and I'm going to be skipping the Stil weapon so that I can save up all my materials, save up all my Maceta, all my wealth, so that when our final endgame be-all weapon comes out, the Cras weapon, then I can immediately 8-slot it and dump all of my Maceta, all of my materials to get the most ultimate endgame be-all weapon with stupid augments like Guardian Soul. Like, I'm sure I'm going to regret it because Guardian Soul is a pain in the butt to make, but I'm definitely gonna try to get it onto my weapon. But yeah, that's pretty much my game plan. Let me know in the comment section below what you guys are planning to do. But anyway, that's pretty much everything I wanted to cover in today's video. Hopefully you guys found it helpful. If you did, I would appreciate a like and a subscribe, and I'll see you guys in tomorrow's video. Bye!